All right, folks, welcome back to this episode of the JP Touchette podcast. I am very excited for this episode because I get to talk about cold atmospheric plasma. That's CAP therapy. For those of you who are familiar with my TSW story, I was originally planning to go to Thailand for this specific treatment. I didn't end up going, but I remained super fascinated by this type of treatment because I saw the people coming in and out of these clinics, and I saw the progress that these people had with their TSW, and I was amazed. And also amazed by the fact that there are only 3 clinics in the world, one in Singapore, one in Thailand, and one in the UK. But recently, a 4th one has popped up. It's called Wave Skin Wellness. It's in Bali. And joining me today are the 2 co-founders of this clinic, Mercedy Miletic-Rahakbauw and Aisha Khan. Welcome both.
Thank you. Thank you for having us both. We've been very excited to get the chance to speak to you. You've been an amazing source of knowledge for our community, and we were thrilled that you reached out to us, and you've been lovely ever since we've met now, actually.
Oh, well, so have you. It's really a pleasure to get to speak to you, and I'm really happy to hear that there are more of these popping up. The first thing I'd love to get into with the both of you is who you are, each of you, and how you came to know about TSW. Like, what are your stories? I think people would benefit to hear that.
Yeah, I think it's funny to start first. I had TSW starting in 2023, too. And I tried to heal naturally for 1 year. Eventually, I knew that there was a clinic in Singapore throughout the girls of the UK, the owners of the UK. They started healing in Singapore. So I knew about CAP treatment, but it was until then unreachable. Until I found out Mariette, who is a big name in the community as well, who posted videos from the Thai clinic. And then I started to researching that one. Eventually, I ended up in the Thai clinic, and there I met Aisha's brother, Sol, and both we were healing together in the Thai clinic. Yeah, I think that's a little bit the story. And then, yeah.
Yeah, so as Mercedes said, my brother had TSW, and he also started around 2021, 2022, and found the Thailand clinic at the very beginning of 2023. So he was one of the first patients over there. And yeah, I shortly went and joined him in Thailand to support his healing. And then that's how I joined the TSW community.
Awesome. I think your audio is a little bit muffled. Do you think you could maybe move the laptop a little bit closer to both of you?
Yeah, we can do that. And if you think that the connection is okay, because we can also check out the network.
No, the connection is fine. I think it actually sounds way better now. Thank you so much.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, yeah, amazing.
Beautiful. Yeah, so Mercedy, you've been through TSW yourself. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like for you? Like, how severe was your condition? And then how did you feel once you started getting CAP therapy?
I think it's hard to explain how severe you are because it's a relative meaning, severity. In my eyes, I wasn't so severe. Yes, I did have TSW flaking, oozing, redness, sensitivity. It was for a few months super heavy until that I had to, for example, how do you say it? Like water my fence from my skin because it was stuck to my skin. And eventually I had thermoregulation, so I had to stop working. But I think when I stopped working, I could give in to rest and accept that this was what my body needed to heal. So I think for maybe 3 or 4 months, it was super heavy for me and for my husband to live this life and to accept what's there and to overcome it all. But eventually, I could give it a place and I could start healing naturally by just sit at the time what was hard was that climate changed in the Netherlands where I'm coming from. And I started to work again where I would be looking backwards at it, be more in touch with irritants again, what would flare me up. And that was the time where I thought, well, I already did a good 7 months of healing on my own without using any tools. We just like sit it out. And then I thought, yeah, I don't get this any longer. And if we do this every winter again, what is this kind of life for me? And then the days got darker because then you don't know anymore. You already tried for almost a year to heal naturally. You don't know what you can expect. You don't know what is causing you flares. Like you don't know it anymore. And then your days are getting darker. So then I started to reach out to Thailand, and it was coming there was such a relief. Knowing that you would go to the clinic where professionals really acknowledge your sickness, your disease, the way you look, can tell you information about why you're looking like that, what would be a future perspective, how you can get better. But most of all, acknowledge that you're not crazy, that you're having this is such an important thing. I was like also with like-minded people. I mean, I wasn't the only one who was flaking in the clinic, so I wasn't the weird one this time. We were all together with flakes and open skin and stuff like that. So yeah, coming to the Thai clinic, the CAP clinic in Thailand was such a relief, and the knowledge I can't describe how much the knowledge did to me. Not even maybe the treatment, but the way you got informed and how you got teach to take care of yourself. All those things were so important to me because it gave me a little bit of choice. I think when you're sick and you don't know what's happening to you, you don't have a choice on how to take care of yourself, what to do. By the fact that you get more information and you can choose, I choose this path so I can take care of myself better, so I can have a more free life or life freely, is so much worth it. Yeah, I think when I had 4 treatments already. My bacterial infection on my eye started to go away. I got so much healing within already 4 weeks. And I actually planned to stay 3.5 months, but eventually it became 5 months because I got such a good results. But I do have to say I was very strict because my months were limited. I did everything I could in my power to make my stay there as good as possible. So my secondary needs, I made sure those were good, like a good healing environment, make sure that I could do my own laundry, make sure I surrounded myself with people also who were a really good influence on me. Like we were all super strict on cleaning tables, and if we would go out together, we would smell the tables like sniffer dogs ourselves and clean the tables with water. And then, for example, waiter would come and say, "Oh, is the table not clean enough? Should I spray it for you with chemicals?" And we were like, "No, we'll clean with water, just water." But being with like-minded people is undescribable because you're not crazy.
The JP Touchette podcast is brought to you by Compadre. Love every walk. Do you have a strong and willful pulling dog? Well, not anymore. Compadre, the makers of the patented no-pull solution, have created a humane harness and leash system to help train against pulling and lunging behaviors. Compadre believes that you don't have to hurt a dog or break their beautiful spirit in order to get them to be good citizens on a leash. Gentle corrections around the strongest part of a dog's anatomy, the chest, means that you can guide and train your dog without painful pinch collars, e-collars, or choke chains. This system helps you to gain your dog's attention and lead them to walk calmly beside you. And if you use promo code JPT2025, you can get 10% off your order. So if you want to see why dog trainers, pet owners, and vets love Compadre, then visit compadre.com. That's COMPAWDRE.com. Yeah, this is the thing that's really fascinated me about the CAP community. Is it's just that you like you described, you get to this place that is now has become a hub for people just like you. And I've heard this so many times, not just from you now, Mercedy, but from all the people who've gone to a CAP clinic, is they feel this weight lifted off of their shoulders because someone is actually listening to them and knows what TSW is and knows all of the different things to help you. Whereas that is the polar opposite in all of the other places. And then I noticed you touched on irritants and stuff like that. I think we'll touch on that a little bit later, but I think it's really important you bring that out. Aisha, I would love to hear your experience, not as someone who has gone through TSW yourself, but has been a TSW caregiver, and then later on a caregiver as a CAP clinic founder. I would love to hear your experience about that.
Yeah, it's been a wild journey, and to have to witness it from the outside and sometimes feel helpless, it's definitely very hard. But I'm so glad that my brother embraced me in his journey, because I think a lot of people go and do this alone, and I honestly don't know how they can do that. When you have TSW and you have to take care of your environment, but you're barely mobile and you have insomnia and you're in pain, it's so hard to face the everyday tasks of sanitizing your space and even cooking for yourself. Even cooking fumes can flare people up, and so I think having somebody in your life to help as a carer, particularly if you're one of the more severe patients who isn't mobile, and that can be really, really important to have a carer in your life. But not every carer is the same. We've seen it a few times where maybe a carer is a parent who's, for example, my parents love my brother to pieces, but they couldn't be his carer through his TSW journey because they're too emotionally invested. Not that I don't love him in the same way, but it was very anxiety inducing for my mum and my dad, and they would be very, very emotional about it. Whereas as a sister, I would tease him and be like, "Oh, you're flakes," and have a bit of a joke as well, and entertain each other, like try and get through a fun TV show or movie marathon together and be there for each other as siblings, without feeling like he's having to look after me, where he felt that way with my mum a little bit. So picking and choosing your carer is important to make sure that you're not going to emotionally challenge each other, but you care for each other enough to be able to support that person going through TSW. And I think that's what makes Mercedy and I quite a unique team in our clinic. Mercedy comes from a perspective where she herself has been through TSW, and I come from a perspective where I've cared for TSW firsthand. And that means that we put our brains together whenever we're working on a patient case from those two perspectives.
Yeah. Is your brother younger or older than you?
Well, he's older than me, but we decided that when he went into TSW, we paused his age for a little while just until he could get his life back. So I'm technically now older than him.
Yeah, I was going to say, those are like big sister vibes. I'm sure he's really, really, really lucky to have you there. I mean, just hearing so many people's stories, like you touched on this before, so many people go it alone. And to have someone there who's got your back, who's not going to not just judge you, but like not take it too hard, like you said your parents were. I mean, that is so vital. And I think it's something that it seems to be worked into the CAP clinics, at least with the Thailand clinic, and it's seeming like your clinic as well, is this like family community vibe, which you don't really get anywhere else. That's really, really awesome. Now, I really kind of want to cut to the chase for people who are listening who have TSW and their bodies on fire. What is cold atmospheric plasma therapy?
Yeah. So shall I jump into this one? Okay. So cold atmospheric plasma therapy, or CAP as an acronym, is a technology. Essentially, it harnesses plasma. So plasma is the fourth state of matter. So you've got solids, liquids, gases, and then you heat your gas and you get ionized gas, which is plasma. So we see plasma as that bluish, purplish glow in lightning, for instance. And so CAP will also deliver that same bluish purple kind of lightning to your skin, which makes it sound a little bit scary, but it's not. We use cold atmospheric plasma, so it's non-thermal. It's not going to burn you. It's not going to harm you. You just feel a bit of a warm buzz. And essentially, if we see it from the TSW community perspective, it's like the topical steroids have suppressed your skin cells and put them to sleep. And CAP kind of hits them with a little lightning bolt and wakes them up. So that's what we're trying to do here with this technology. So CAP itself is the plasma is a mixture of reactive oxygen, reactive nitrogen, electrons, UV, and then they all power together to have some incredible applications, one of which is wound healing. So, the machines that we have are already used in hospitals for diabetic wound healing and ulcer treatment. And there's many, many studies about the wound healing capabilities of CAP. And we apply those same principles through our own machines, which are also the same medical grade CAP machines. And they're just fine-tuned towards TSW skin that apply the same wound healing principles to the skin. So if we wanted to dig into a little bit more of the science, it activates repair pathways in the cells, it enhances collagen production and angiogenesis, so new blood vessel formation, it reduces inflammation, it's antimicrobial. So all of that comes together to really boost wound healing and alleviate some of those symptoms that people suffering with TSW have. I think
Awesome.
that's a little bit about what CAP is.
Well, I certainly, I think we can absolutely nerd out about this as we go on. I'm just establishing both of your credibilities, because I think there's I even made the mistake, and I'll address it in just a moment. But I think there's this mistake of people assuming, oh, this is a salon thing. This isn't a real clinic. You're just kind of going there and trying some random thing. I think there's this perception of CAP as that, when that is the absolute opposite of the truth. And as I said before, I kind of fell into that. And I mentioned that the CAP clinic in Thailand was a salon. And I just want to address that incorrection real quick, because I got a message from Jay, who is the mastermind behind the Thai clinic. And just correcting that, their clinic is a medically licensed clinic, a proper license, not a salon. They treat steroid-induced ulcers there. But the issue is that because TSW is not officially recognized in the Thailand Medical Council, they can't actually talk about it or advertise it. And so I've heard this before, and that has kind of caused a lot of issues for their advertisement. But that being said, this is not some willy-nilly type of thing. They're coming in there into a professional setting, and they're being taken care of by professionals. Am I on the right track there?
Yeah. Yes, you are.
Okay, we had a little bit of a technical issue there. Just to remind the audience, we're speaking literally across the earth right now. It's 9:55 a.m. here, and what is it, 9:55 p.m. over there?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you both so much for joining in the middle of the night. It's really appreciated, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are appreciating this right now. I was just asking both of you how you came to decide to start your own CAP clinic. Like, what was the story with that?
Yeah, so since I met Aisha's brother and we moved to this whole community together, I got the idea of why are there only 3 clinics in the world, and why are there not more clinics for people to heal? If you already know how much people, for example, having atopic dermatitis in the USA, there must be a lot of people having TSW. And why are there only 3 clinics for the whole wide world to go to and to get this knowledge? So I was like thinking we should start another clinic. But how do I do that without having the financial funds to start a whole new business or a whole new clinic, since I just did a whole 5 months of CAP treatment? So that's where I asked at one random night to Aisha's brother, well, what do you know about investments? And that's how the whole ball started rolling. Oh, and in the meantime, I also had to update my husband because, I mean, I just left my house, my career, my car, my family. We left everything behind to start up this new clinic. So I had to inform him as well and ask him a little bit permission, like, hey, I have this crazy new idea. Would you like to join, or what do you think of it? So yeah, I think during the CAP treatments, it all came a little bit together. Yeah, and then 3 months later.
Yeah, I think it was one of those where we're describing how people feel when they come to the clinic, and like I said, Sol and Mercedy were some of the first people in that Thailand clinic, and they formed an amazing community of healing together. And Sol and I had, before we found the CAP clinic in Thailand, we'd spoken to so many doctors around the world, in America and Europe, and as many places as we could. And we just couldn't find the help that we needed. He tried so many different things and didn't manage to heal. When he finally started healing in Thailand, it was just like this light switch moment for us as a family. And he himself was saying, like, we need to get this to more people. And we keep the quote between ourselves that the last stage of healing is helping other people to heal who are going through the same thing as you. And that is something that I've absolutely seen my brother and Mercedy hang on to. And so at that stage, when he started healing, he was so excited about CAP and reaching as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And then one night, him and Mercedy struck this conversation, and they were both on the same wavelength. And they were like, oh my gosh, I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about this. And then it pulled together. And yeah, it was a really, just a really amazing moment.
That's beautiful. I really commend you on that, because what you just touched on is something I feel a lot of people, not just with TSW, but with all sorts of ailments, fall ill to, no pun intended. As you know, once you're healed and you can go back to your life, you're kind of like, you know, Frodo on that last ship with the elves at the end of Return of the King. And it's like, all right, I'm leaving. Like, I can't take this anymore. And I think it takes, well, for starters, it takes a special person to go through TSW, because you actively have to deny yourself the thing that's making you comfortable. And then on top of that, it takes an even more special person to say, I'm done with this personally, but I'm not done with this as a thing. Like, I can't watch other people go through it. And so I just wanted to take a moment to thank both of you for doing this. I think you're going to put a lot of good in the world by doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that.
You're very welcome. Now, there's something I would really like to touch on here, a couple different things. One is that I can only speak for myself, is that when I was going through the doldrums, the throes of TSW myself, I realized, okay, I can't go to Thailand. That's too much for me and my family. I'm taking traditional Chinese medicine with Olivia Sue Friedman, but I figured out that there's another 50% of the CAP treatment itself, which is not just the machine. It is the at-home protocols for the person with TSW. Could you talk about what those are and why? Why do those exist?
You want to start?
Yeah, I can start off, and because this is something for all of our incoming patients. We make them do this like whole half day with us where we're doing a whole education session. Education is a huge part of of our clinic, and we get patients who come in. I mean, just this Saturday, we had a patient with her sister and partner who came in just for the education, and we've had this multiple times. So they're not looking for CAP treatment, but we use the space for education as well. So I'm really, really glad that you're asking about this, because I know there might be many listeners out there who can't access CAP treatment right now, but we would love to be able to spread some knowledge on how they might be able to manage their flares. So when we sit down with the patients, we kind of explain to them that CAP is an accelerator. It's a tool to support your healing through the symptoms that are often described as TSW or Red Skin syndrome or topical steroid addiction. So it's an accelerator, just like in a car. But the patient is behind the steering wheel. The patient is driving. So just like in a car, you have to make sure that you're steering in the right direction first before you press the accelerator. So how do you make sure you're steering in the right direction? That's where all of the at-home protocols come into play. Because there's no point in doing CAP, there's no point in pressing the accelerator unless you're going in the right direction. Otherwise, you're just going to go around in circles. So that's why we always start our treatment, our protocols, our intake with the education session. So do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Like, of course, everybody knows a little bit about the internal flare factors like stress, not enough sleep, consuming alcohol, food you're allergic to, which is very, very important, spicy foods and fermented food. Menstruation can be an internal flare factor for the women, or ovulation even, or physical illness like fever. Now, those people will know, but there is another group. Skin contact is scratching, rubbing, slapping, hitting, and picking.
Like
while I'm doing it, it's also causing you. It's also causing you harm. For example, why if you scratch, you can have bacteria on the inside of your hands, spreading bacteria into open wounds if you still have a severe skin. Rubbing can cause friction, so it will also make your skin even worse until it's so itchy and you're rubbing into shiny skin. Slapping and hitting is also harming the skin, of course. So Jay always teaches us to scratch gentle.
Yeah.
And even with the outside of your fingers, because there is less bacteria there. So people used to scratch with their knuckles, for example, unless they are harmed, of course, because then you shouldn't scratch at all.
Yeah, so that's the first two groups. So the first group is those internal factors that Mercedy mentioned. So at-home protocol for managing your stress as best you can. We've got a lot of patients who like to do meditation, journaling. Maybe they take time away from work.
Yeah.
And then making sure you're sleeping enough. It doesn't have to be that you're sleeping at nighttime. You can sleep whenever your body allows you to sleep. I know many people get very itchy at nighttime. That's when a lot of skin healing is happening, which is quite an itchy situation. So even if you're having to sleep at 3 p.m. until 7 p.m., like it's okay. Nobody's going to judge you. You're healing. And then but with the alcohol, any food you're allergic to, spicy food seems to flare a lot of patients. And the fermented food that Mercedy mentioned too, we've actually seen, like Jay's seen in the clinic himself, that yogurt and kombucha are okay, but other fermented food you might have to test out for yourself. Kimchi seems to flare people, for example. But these might be things that you test for yourself. This is just in our experience of the patients that we've seen. And then to summarize that second group, it's kind of physical damage. But the third group is probably the most important group to take care of, and probably the most difficult to manage, because it's all the external things that are harder to control. Those first two groups are, you can control what you eat. You can control if you're as best you can if you're scratching. But external things like irritants, allergens, and infections, then you have less control over. So this is where we really try to help our patients manage their environment as best they can. So irritants will include most chemical products, so fragrance products, chemical products, detergent, construction, renovation, even buying new furniture will off-gas for quite a while.
Cooking
fumes, yes, personal care products,
pesticides.
Yeah, pest control. I mean, here in Bali, we tell our patients to ask their landlords when the pest control is happening, because that's quite common in tropical countries. Yeah, so lots of irritants that you normally pin down as a chemical, and then you've got your allergens. So these are most of the things that you're genetically allergic to. So you might know what your allergens are. They're usually plants or animals, and they're usually things like pollen, dust mite, fruits or veg that you're allergic to. They're very, very common ones: dog, cat. Sometimes in TSW, when people's body is in a state of inflammation, they end up having new allergies that they never had before. My brother loved seafood, and then with TSW, he was allergic to shellfish, allergic to salmon. But now that his skin is doing better, he's actually able to incorporate some of those seafoods back into his life again. So some of those allergens might just be temporary intolerances, and some of them might be allergens that you are genuinely genetically allergic to, and you do have to avoid them for life.
Also, I think it's also important to make sure that the environment you're living in, if it's changing, that you also get aware of those allergens. I, for example, found out that I got more allergic to frangipanis. Well, in the Netherlands, there are no frangipanis, I can tell you. But here, I had to cut them all short. And for example, Sol, her brother, found out here in Thailand that he got allergic for cockroaches, where we don't have the cockroaches in Europe, where he's originally coming from. So those are also things to, to take care of, to be aware of when you're moving countries or when you're going on a holiday. Like make sure that even there, you could be allergic to something you are not aware of because you don't live by it day by day. And then the third of the external ones are infections. Infections is also good to keep in control, or to get rid of is even better, because infections are a secondary sickness or a secondary disease how do you say it, like, which is important to take care of when you have an open and severe skin.
Yeah, that's okay. So I just want to sum up here. So when you're going through TSW, your skin is basically, your whole body's like an open wound, and so it can't fend for itself like normal skin can. So you have to be, you as the person with the TSW have to be the guardian of your open wound. So anything you wouldn't put anywhere near a burn victim, you wouldn't put near anyone with TSW. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
sometimes making more, the skin is so thin and sensitive that most things will irritate the skin. And so sometimes even, I know maybe you spoke to Alia about this, but the creams and ointments that are applied to help alleviate some of the pain and the discomfort from burn victims or other wounds, that they don't seem to always work for TSW patients, because some of those ingredients can really flare patients as well. It's just such thin, compromised skin that really most patients can only handle water, especially in the beginning.
Or not even water.
Yes,
Sometimes even that hurts.
Even water. Yes, that's really important. I would like to get to that, but I just want to stick on so we discussed irritants. So that's one part of it. And you just touched on infections. What are some things that people can do at home to recognize what an actual infection looks like and then safely take care of that infection, cap or no cap?
I would say you can divide infections into 3 groups: bacterial infections, viral infections, and fungal infections. Now, fungal infections is a little bit hard because those are itchy from itself and you can spread it easily by scratching. So fungal is just try to not scratch and wait till your skin is a little bit stronger by when you're using antifungal medication or stuff like that, because even the medication can make you itchy. So whether you're trying not to harm your skin by scratching, when you use the fungal medication, it can make you flare up again. So maybe try to shower first to at least get away from the bacterials, get away from the irritants, get away from the bacterial infections, take care of them. Now, there is a thin line between taking care of your bacterial infections, because those are so easily spreaded. What is what is really good to do is, for example, shower with a mouth cleanser at least once a day to minimize the risk of bacterial infections. If you suspect a bacterial infection, use NaCl or saline solution to put on a clean cotton pad and soak your wound for a few minutes, or at least clean your wound, your open wounds for a few minutes, and let it dry properly. And then use, eventually, if needed, the antibiotic cream, or go to, of course, a professional who can prescribe you or administer you to antibiotics. But solve it immediately. I know a lot of people are afraid to use antibiotics because of their gut health and because of everything else. And I do understand that. But also know that your body cannot heal properly. Your skin cannot heal properly when you're dealing with so much infections at once. I mean, 80 to 90% of the majority at this moment is dealing with fungal infections and a lot of bacterial infections because they do the NMT method. And I think the NMT method is okay while you do it under supervision of Dr. Sato in his hospital, but don't do it at home because who is administering your bacterial infection? Who is taking care of your fungal infection? Who is supervising it? Like, if we all start to do something we think it's good because there are Chinese whisperers a little bit, let's keep that to the professionals and just shower at least every day to minimize the risk of infections. Did I forget something?
And then with the viral infections as well,
true,
they can be very contagious and spread very rapidly. So if you have a suspected viral infection, you should get it checked by a doctor and get prescribed antivirals as fast as you can, because that can develop into much worse issues such as eczema herpeticum. So just watch out for those viral infections too.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important that we talk about this because, like, Mercedy, like you said, it's like 80 to 90% of people who have TSW can expect some sort of infection. It just happens over and over and over again because your skin, again, open wound, you're itchier than you probably will ever be in your entire life. So you're constantly scratching, you're introducing bacteria back into the skin. I just bumped my mic. And then something I really want to highlight that you highlighted, I want to say it again, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with fungal infections, if you see what you think is a fungal infection and you're going through TSW and your skin's really bad and you take antifungal medication, it might get rid of like the fungal infection on the top of the skin, but then you go and scratch again and then the fungal infection comes back and you take more medicine, and then at a certain point your body becomes immune to that fungal medicine. So you're saying it's better to wait till your skin is much more normal and it can take the scratching before you go into the antifungals. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And even CN Sun would just help. So we advise our patients as well to swim in the sea to clean your skin when there's no high UV index, because that is also cleaning your skin as much as possible, which is more accessible, I would say.
Yeah.
And free of charge.
If you could get to the sea, that would be amazing. So essentially, the life cycle of a fungus is from spores to hyphae, and we can kill hyphae through fungal medication, through CN Sun, through CAP, but we can't kill the spores. The spores can only be killed through incineration. So if you're scratching, you're constantly re-embedding spores into your skin, which means it's going to be really difficult for you to get rid of that fungal infection. So you want to wait until your skin is more stable, or at our clinic anyway, we wait until the patient's skin is more stable before they use the antifungal medication. And in the meantime, just target breaking the cycle of high theta spore by CAP or sea and sun, which can be really great as well.
And not
Nice.
stress.
Yeah.
And
That's
showering
something I
lots
hear
of
over and
water.
over. Oh yeah. Well, that's something I hear over and over again from reputable people such as yourself is sea and sun, sea and sun, sea and sun. What about people who don't have an ocean anywhere near where they live? Is that basically going to come down to shower 1 to 2 times a day, and then use saline solution on your wounds and your infections and monitor infections that way? Is that kind of what they can do if they don't have the sea?
Yeah.
And make sure, of course, you're living in an irritant-free and allergen-free environment, because I think it's super important to tell as well. Your bacterial infection and your fungal infection will flare up the more you're in touch with irritants. It will flare up more and more. It will be more itchy when you're in touch with irritants. So what you want to do is make sure that at least your sleeping environment, your bedroom, is irritant-free and safe for you to heal. If you cannot heal while you're sleeping, then it's a never-ending cycle you're in. So make sure your bedroom is safe. Make sure that there is nothing in your bedroom what could eventually harm your skin. I see that you have a plant in the background. If people are maybe even if people even are allergic for mold, some people even forget that in the soil there can be mold. So even that is something you would check.
It's like,
Or the AC you're using, that you're make sure that it's clean and not growing mold, or the fumes who are in the AC and stuff like that. And what we always advise the patients as well, like, if you are suspecting redness when you wake up, then there's something wrong in your bedroom. So the minute you wake up and you're red, there is something wrong in your bedroom. Now you can do two things. You can get everything out of your bedroom and reintroduce it night by night or week by week and see what is causing you this flare. Or you can remove yourself from the bedroom. So you sleep in the living room, for example, or another room. So you can find out what is flaring in your bedroom. And it might be stupid things like wooden furniture, or new items from plastic who still need to off gas, or even a bin liner who is super plasticky smell. It's all the little things. And it's so weird because we always say if it's in your nose and you can smell it, it can land on your skin.
Yeah, I think one of the main principles that we follow, after the first initial crash that of people who are experiencing the symptoms of TSW, they initially come down, and then within the first 2 months, usually. After that, your skin should start to stabilize and you should start to slowly heal. But if you're not and you're constantly flaring, at that stage, we say to you, look, your flares are not random. We follow that principle that your flares are not random. And so we like to empower people with as many examples and as much knowledge as possible to be their own detectives in figuring out what's causing them to flare. If you can remove that flare factor, then your skin can focus on repairing and regenerating rather than going through the motions of flaring.
And healing all the irritant flares and the bacterial flares who get worse. And like that.
And I think Mercedy makes a really important point that we try to tell all of our patients when they're going home as well, or the patients that are coming in. When you're hit with all this knowledge and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to change my whole lifestyle, make it irritant-free and allergen-free. And we say, okay, don't be too overwhelmed. Start with your bedroom. That's the best place to start, because most of your healing happens when you're asleep. So if you can, if you must go out into the world and you must grocery shop and you must go to work, you're exposing yourself to irritants. If you can come home, have a shower, put on some pajamas that you've washed with just hot water and no detergent, and then you go into your bedroom that's all irritant-free and you can have a good nap, then hopefully your skin can pull itself back together during that sleep, during that good quality sleep. And then you should be waking up less red than when you went to sleep. So your sleep cycle can repair the damage that was done in the daytime. And if you keep doing that day after day, then you will slowly start to heal. Whereas if your sleeping environment is not okay, you're not going to wake up. You're not going to be repairing from the damage that's done during the day, and you're going to be stagnant in your healing. So start with the bedroom, and then expand your bubble, then expand to your living room, expand to your kitchen, and then expand to your mum's house and your dad's house. Yeah, you can expand your safe bubble.
Yeah, this exact ideology, method, if you will, is the exact thing that, other than my traditional Chinese medicine, that was the thing that really not only got me to start seeing progress, but it gave me hope that I had some sort of control over what was happening to me. And I think that's something that is incredibly valuable for people with TSW, because oftentimes their lives are completely uprooted. They lost their job, maybe they lost their relationship. They're in this strange country they've never been in before. And to have that structure, to have that every day, okay, at least I can control this, and wow, it's actually helping me. That is so vital. And it's something that you don't need a prescription for. It's just advice, and it's free, and it's empowering the people who are going through TSW. Now, one thing I definitely have to touch on is, we mentioned a little bit further back that, these creams, moisturizers, emollients, oils, those can be harmful. And so that's why, you mentioned there can be issues with the full no moisture treatment because it's not under the care of a doctor who knows what it is. But that being said, you guys do sort of recommend people to stay away from skincare products. Can you explain the reasons why and how that works?
Yeah. And I feel like the little fat I was like, okay, my turn. Okay, so yes, whilst there have been people who definitely benefit from drying their skin out especially when it's oozing, we would normally ask our patients to shower at least once a day. And we don't ask them to limit their water intake or sweat or anything like that. But when it comes to moisture withdrawal, we do agree with the moisture withdrawal. And this is because in the experience of Jay and in our experience, we noticed that moisturizing can cause hardened skin or excess skin. So essentially, again, when the skin barrier is not intact and the skin barrier is compromised, those applying any product to the skin, its foreign ingredients can penetrate lower than they're supposed to, and your skin has to protect itself. And as a protection mechanism, you can develop hardened skin, which is a form of callus. Just like when you go to the gym and you're lifting weights very often, you're putting friction against your skin, and your body protects itself by forming calluses. Now, it's very similar in the situation where if you're applying products, your body does not like those foreign ingredients, or you're scratching constantly, or you're exposing your skin to irritants, and those irritants might be through a spray that you're using or a cream that you're putting on. Your body's going to protect itself from letting those foreign ingredients penetrate lower than they should by forming a callus, which is hardened skin. And that's further along, whereas before that you have excess skin, which is where you kind of see what looks like elephant skin. So because TSW skin can't tolerate foreign ingredients, and it can't tolerate moisturizers, which can also draw water away from cells that are deep and dry them out and cause layers of dead skin cells, we would just recommend not using moisturizers. Excess skin is reversible with time, and especially with CAP, hardened skin can be much more difficult to get rid of. And so I know that in some situations it can provide a bit of a barrier to irritants, but when you're living with hardened skin, in reality, there's not very much elasticity to that skin, which means that it cuts open with those very painful knife cut wounds, and they can introduce infections and be very difficult to live with. So yeah,
and I think to also fill in a little bit more, most moisturizers are designed for infected skin and not for uninfected skin. So that's why the ingredients all are nice for people who have healthy skin, but not people with super open skin. So that's why our body is protecting itself against those foreign ingredients.
Yes, I'm really glad we touched on this because it's a pretty controversial thing even within the TSW community, and I think I understand why, is because a lot of times those products provide comfort for people.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to give people that information so that they can decide for themselves. And I don't think it has to be a black and white thing. Like for me, I was prescribed, I was given products by my TCM doctor, very specific products for my skin for limited uses. And I found those to be helpful. But at other points, I found them to be harmful. The same product, just at different times. And so I think it's important for people to know all of the facts, and then they can do with that whatever they so choose. Well, I'm really enjoying this conversation, but I think around now I'm going to try to wrap it up. What are your goals for the clinic? Like, what do you hope to achieve with this? I mean, obviously you're healing people, and that's enough for a lot of people. But where do you see this CAP clinic going?
Yeah, I think for us it's important to spread awareness about it, to heal people, as you said, to educate patients, friends, and family. Let's not forget our caretakers, our friends and family. We are happy to welcome friends, fellow family, relatives, everybody who wants to take care of some of TSW patient. They are invited to. Creating an understanding community and a safe space. And I think a safe space is super important too. We want to create a place where our patients are heard and seen, and like, yeah, to give them the acknowledgement, to give what we have been searching for the whole wide world, as Aisha said, like she and her brother went to the whole, like spreading all over the world to find the answer to get healed. And I think that's the most important thing as well, to see our patients really. And as you said, like healing is not black and white. Like all people also have different approaches and their own time management of when they are ready for certain stages in their healing. And I think that's okay. It's okay to not go on the, how do you say, fast track, or it's okay to take it step by step. Everybody at their own pace as well, because yeah, I think that's how we evolve and how life is and how we develop. Not everybody is the same, so everybody has their own approach of time management and of applying knowledge as well. And I think that's the most important part. We have people who go super strict. We have patients also who think, oh, I enjoy a little bit here, more there, because my mental needs it, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think as well, obviously, like, we want to make CAP more accessible worldwide, but we also know that there's so much more research that needs to go into TSW and into developing other ways that patients can heal from the symptoms that are referred to as TSW. And so we also do our best to document cases and record data to help support research in the future, especially if anyone wanted to, work on that. And then eliminating the feeling of isolation as well. So when we're talking about creating your own safe space where you can heal, most patients become confined to their own rooms and their own state and their own homes. Whereas on Sunday, we had a music night at the clinic, because the clinic is completely irritant and allergen free. So we can invite all the patients there. They can get to know each other, get to mingle, and get to sing together and have some fun. So as a clinic, as a brick and mortar clinic, we can really create a community space that's safe for everyone and eliminate that isolation and make people feel seen and heard and have some fun.
I love that. I think that's something that is really lacking in medical care where I'm from and where a lot of people are from, is you don't really get a sense that, that the people caring for you really have the time and the passion behind what they're doing. And that's, of course, not really the fault of the doctor. It's really the format, right? You know, they don't have time to spend an hour plus with you, you know, empowering you, giving you all this information, and having a music night and getting to know you, and just like holistically making you better. And so that's why I really wanted to have you two on, because I really got the sense. I mean, Mercedy kind of interacting with you before through the CAP Clinic community, that this was something different. This is a type of a place where people can go and they can feel that safe space that you talked about. And so, and then obviously Aisha, hearing your story and you know, seeing incredibly courageous move to go to Bali and just to help people too. And I think it's really important to show both of your attitudes towards this, because I think that's what a lot of people with TSW are looking for. And I think they'll find it with Wave Skin Wellness. So I just really wanted to thank both of you for coming on the podcast. And where if people want to ask questions or get in touch with the clinic, how could they do so?
Well, we have our Instagram, and through our website, you might be directed to like a form that you can fill out. You can tell us some information about yourself, and we can get back to you to see how best we can support your healing. And through that, you can also just send some inquiries. So usually Instagram or the website would be the best way to get a hold of us, and we'll do our best to get back to you as soon as possible.
Sweet. Well, I wish you both the best, and all of your patients, and obviously Aisha, your brother, I hope he's doing well. Is he doing okay now?
Yeah, he's doing good.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, I wish you the best, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
Of course. All right, y'all. Peace.